Just the other day, Kubo spoke in regards to Core 4 of the Thousand Year Blood War arc anime, specifically regarding the final battle between Ichigo and Yhwach, discussing how he was checking the anime design sheets, and that for that final battle, the team actually made reference illustrations showing every stage of the damage that Ichigo was taking, and it's all because of how Kubo messed Ichigo up that badly during that battle. It's a great quote, and of course exciting to hear about Core 4 of the anime, and the amount of detail the team is employing. But we really haven't had many updates at all yet on this final season. Believe it or not, Part 4 of the Thousand Year Blood War arc anime titled The Calamity is on the horizon, and there's so much to look forward to. Hearing this recent quote from Kubo, hearing how seemingly excited and impressed he is with how production is going on Core 4, really reinvigorated me, my excitement for the upcoming final season, and helped to spur on the creation of this video. As the final core of the anime, this is where everything should come to a head in one climactic showdown. And today I want to take a look at the 10 biggest moments still to come in the story's closing act, because we haven't seen anything yet compared to what awaits us in the endgame. Seeing as we've still heard very little in regards to that final core, then I wanted to take the time to indulge in a bit of hype, and to help remind everyone of just some of the greatness headed our way. Considering the final episode of Core 3 left us at about the halfway point of chapter 661 at the start of Uryū's battle with Haschwalth, there really isn't much manga left to cover across these final 13 or so episodes, with only 25 chapters remaining. Of course, as was the case with Core 3, I'm expecting a hell of a lot of anime original content to help plug those gaps, and the team has even teased just how much of the core is going to be brand new. But don't write the manga out just yet, as it still has plenty of genuinely jaw-dropping moments left to share. So today's video is going to be dedicated to looking specifically at the biggest moments from those remaining 25 chapters, 2.5 volumes. Which means no, I'm not going to be including potential future anime exclusive scenes, such as Gerard versus the Vizard, as exciting as they are, because we simply have no idea how they're going to play out, if at all. So of course it goes without saying that this video will feature enormous spoilers for the remainder of the anime, for the climax of the Thousand Year Blood War arc itself, so watch at your own peril. Let me know down in the comments which remaining moment from the manga are you most excited to see in the final core of the Thousand Year Blood War arc. Remember as well that if you enjoyed today's video, consider hitting subscribe down below. It is quick and easy to do, and it does make the absolute world of difference in supporting the channel. And speaking of supporting the channel, consider checking out my other channel, Mr. Tomo Talks Games. I just put out a new video over there regarding the Oblivion remaster, which is very exciting news happening over in the games industry right now. So if you're into that sort of thing at all, consider checking it out. Maybe leave a subscribe over there. Help push us to 12,000 subs. Your report would be greatly appreciated. So I'll be going through this list in roughly chronological order. This should be the sequence in which we'll experience these various moments, though of course anything could change by the time the anime comes around. Anyway, first up is Yoruichi activating her ultimate form, Shunko Raijin Senkei Shunryo Kokubyo Senbi, in her battle with Askin. Well, I guess it's more accurate to say that Kisuke activates the form for her, but ultimately this transformation allows her to overpower the sternritter, utilizing the extraordinary power of her Shunko Unleashed. Of course, we last saw Yoruichi in the anime, flinging Askin across the battlefield, all while trying to take care of her seriously wounded brother, Yushiro. In the manga, we next see Yoruichi after she's been struck by a potent gift ball from Askin, now poisoned and brought to her knees. This results in Kisuke arriving out of the blue to help her, having apparently abandoned the rest of the Gotei 13 to their fate at the feet of the now gigantic Gerard. And of course, the last time we saw Kisuke in the anime, he was looking on in horror as Gerard transformed and became a giant thanks to the miracle. After temporarily freeing Yoruichi of the paralyzing effects of the death dealing, he transforms her, with Yoruichi taking on a a more feline appearance, both in personality and physically, now garbed in the crackling lightning of her shunko. Although Yoruichi loses her sense of self, she's now capable of blitzing Askin and forcing him to activate his Volstendish. We've actually seen a brief glimpse of how this form will appear in the anime, thanks to some recently released concept art, and it's looking pretty faithful. Needless to say, this is going to be a sight to behold, especially if the way the anime handled the activation of Yoruichi's Shunko Raijin Senkei is anything to go by, as it was perhaps one of the most visually and audibly incredible sequences of the entire season. Hastily following on from Yoruichi's ultimate form, we have the reveal that I'm currently the most excited to see: Kisuke's Bankai Kanon Biraki Benehime Aratame. After Yoruichi succumbs to Askin's poison and is rendered unable to fight, Kisuke is left to battle the sternritter alone, in a sequence that I'm really hoping is extended here in the anime. Again, we've already seen a glimpse of Kisuke's Bankai thanks to some concept art shared by the team, and I can't wait to see Benehime in action. With Yoruichi down for the count and Kisuke suddenly blinded by Askin's surprisingly gruesome gift ring ability, the former captain is forced to release his Bankai at last. Easily one of the most anticipated Bankai reveals of the series, and I'm not just speaking personally now. Kisuke's Bankai takes the form of a gigantic wooden puppet, likely in the appearance of Benehime herself, a regal woman with black hair draped in a flowing crimson robe, her rigid skeletal arms outstretched around Kisuke in an embrace of sorts. With the power to restructure anything she touches, Kisuke's Bankai helps him to put the pressure on Askin, and through the power of his Bankai, Kisuke orchestrates Askin's downfall with the help of an unexpected ally from outside the battlefield in a fantastic finale. Like I said, I'm really hoping this fight sequence is extended somewhat in the anime, because really, Kisuke versus Askin is probably like one of my favorite, if not my favorite fight in the Varvelt arc, and it lasts for all of about 3 chapters in the manga, so here's hoping it does get a little more fleshing out. I'd love to see Kisuke using his Shikai at least a little bit, for example, and maybe give his Bankai a little more fanfare. So yeah, I really can't wait to see Kisuke activating his Bankai in the anime, and again, it should be one of the first really big moments of the core. I have a feeling Benehime herself might be CG, though I kind of hope not. Next up, we have yet another hugely anticipated Bankai reveal, albeit one that I think was a little more surprising and a little more unexpected, and that's Kenpachi's Bankai. Yes, Kenpachi learns both Shikai and Bankai in the space of about 150 chapters, which is pretty good going, though his Bankai reveal is a bit unconventional, which honestly fits the character well. I've said it before, but it definitely feels like Kubo was indulging in a bit of wish fulfillment for the fans throughout the Varvelt arc, giving us not one, not 2, but 3 of the absolute most requested Bankai reveals of all time in pretty quick succession: Kyoraku, Kisuke, Kenpachi. As Kenpachi battles Gerard, the fight-loving captain finds himself overwhelmed and overpowered, with the reflective ability of Gerard's blade Hoffnung carving into the Shinigami over and over again. Eventually, who should arrive by the fallen Kenpachi's side but Yachiru, who has been missing in action in the anime since episode 21. Well, while it isn't said explicitly, Yachiru is revealed to be the Zanpakuto spirit of Kenpachi's Nozarashi, specifically his Bankai, which she bestows upon him in this very moment. After an explosive column of Reiatsu surges upwards, Kenpachi is revealed. His skin has turned a deep blood red, and he's become a demonic monster, a berserker with blank eyes and bared teeth, horns jutting from his now grave features. Clutching his now shattered Zanpakuto in his hand, Kenpachi flies into an animalistic, instinctual rage, demonstrating impossibly fast speeds and immeasurable physical strength, as he slices through the enormous Quincy with apparent ease. The last time we saw Kenpachi in the anime, he was recuperating in one of Mayuri Kurotsuchi's regeneration pods up in Varvelt after being seriously wounded and nearly killed by Pernida. So Kenpachi needs to up his game here in the final core, and I have a feeling he probably will. Another of Core 4's biggest moments comes soon after in that very same fight. With Kenpachi down for the count after his Bankai fails to kill the Goliath, Hitsugaya steps up instead, only for the flower petals of his own Bankai to expire, seemingly indicating his Bankai's demise. Instead, however, he reveals his completed Bankai, long in the works, transforming himself into an adult at the same time. Taking on a brand new appearance, an extraordinarily powerful and renewed Hitsugaya then takes the fight to Gerard, freezing the giant down to the bone, and works alongside Byakuya and even the grievously wounded Kenpachi to deliver what looks to be the finishing blow at long last. Again, the last time we saw Hitsugaya in the anime, he had actually just emerged from Mayuri's regeneration pods, and he and Matsumoto were now making their way over to the Gerard fight, so it seems likely that very early on in the next core, Hitsugaya will get involved, regardless of whatever has become of the Vizard by that point. What's crazy about Hitsugaya's completed Bankai, though, is that we've technically seen it in the anime already, an early version of it at least. Hitsugaya's adult form appeared in the very first trailer for the Thousand Year Blood War Arc anime, which was more a conceptual trailer than anything else, showing a collection of various shots from different scenes from across the entire span of the anime. And as far as I can remember, the shot of adult Hitsugaya is perhaps the latest point in the story featured in that trailer. Certainly it is very near the end. Honestly, I thought it was a pretty huge spoiler back then, and we're still waiting for it now. Alright, I'm playing a little fast and loose with what a moment is now, but up next we've got the battle between Uryū and Haschwalth, which theoretically should be a big deal, but of course is notorious for being perhaps the worst fight of the Varvelt arc by far in the manga, being completely and utterly sidelined as the end of the series beckoned. So there's a lot of apprehension, I think, surrounding this battle. It should and could be so much more than it is. Hell, I made an entire video looking at the fight to come in the anime and how they could potentially improve it. So I can't really pick a singular moment per se, as there aren't really any particularly great or exciting moments to look forward to, except for maybe Haschwalth being taken out by the Valen, or I guess the reveal of their Shrift, but even that I think is pretty underwhelming. Instead, this is one where I'm most anticipating whatever changes the anime decides to make here. This isn't the same as Gerard versus the Vizard, since that showdown literally doesn't exist in the manga in the way it's being set up here in episode 40. Uryū vs Haschwalth is straight from the source material, but I'm hoping they flesh it out a lot. Of course, Core 3 effectively ended with the start of this particular fight, so it seems like the anime team hopefully understands the weight this duel carries. And hey, Uryū now has a Volston dish, which again he didn't have in the manga, so that already improves the prospects of this fight to some degree. Of course, there's another fight playing out concurrently alongside Uryū vs Haschwalth, and it's in this fight where we're going to find a few pretty huge moments for the final core. Ichigo and Orihime vs Yhwach, the very same fight that Kubo was talking about in the quote that opened this video, features two major reveals for our main character specifically, and so I've rolled them both into this one entry here. First up, Ichigo unleashes a totally new form, dubbed the Horn of Salvation due to the chapter title it first appears in, when he unveils the result of the newfound harmony between the spirits of Zangetsu. With a single horn protruding from the side of his head and hollow-like markings running down his body, this form represents the complete acknowledgement of Ichigo's hollow powers as a part of himself, and the end result of the entire hollowification storyline, culminating in Ichigo's bone-white blade. After Ichigo's Horn of Salvation form fails to defeat Yhwach when he activates the Almighty, Ichigo responds by, at long last, releasing his true Bankai, the ultimate result of his training in the royal palace. Of course, in what will likely be one of Core 4's absolutely craziest, most talked about scenes, Ichigo's new, never-before-seen Tensei Zangetsu is cut in half immediately, thanks to Yhwach's ability to see and alter the future. A major event that was teased, if not outright spoiled, in the first conceptual trailer for Core 4. While it's clear that Ichigo's Bankai is still going to be broken, I can't help but wonder if we'll at least get to see more from it. One of the prevailing theories is that we will see what Yhwach himself sees in the future before he then breaks the blade, though I also think there is value in the shock factor of the Bankai being immediately snapped in two. Maybe the way you could do it is have Ichigo's Bankai reveal and the Bankai being broken be the ending of an episode, the cliffhanger, and then the next episode begins with what Yhwach saw in the future, perhaps. With Ichigo bloodied and beaten and Yhwach headed for the Serete to begin collapsing the three worlds, it looks like all is lost for our heroes, until they receive some help from an unexpected ally. That's right, Core 4 will at long last feature the return of Xcution, specifically Ginjo and Tsukishima, who arrive in the aftermath of Ichigo's fight with Yhwach to help their former enemy. Tsukishima stabs Ichigo through the back with his Book of the End, creating a new past timeline for Ichigo's Tensei Zangetsu where it was never broken by Yhwach, and helping Orihime to restore the weapon to its full strength. It's an awesome moment, even if it does feel like too little, too late. Yes, I was hoping to see these guys a lot earlier and in a much more substantive way, but hey, you can't win them all, and I was always grateful at least that Tsukishima does play a key role in defeating Yhwach, essentially. Considering we haven't seen Ginjo or Tsukishima in the anime since episode 8, I think it's safe to assume they're going to play a similar role here in Core 4, with little to no expansion. That being said, the anime did tease their return in episode 40, as Riruka and Yukio embarked on a secret mission, returning to the Soul Society down below and arriving outside Kukaku's residence, which is of course where Ginjo and Tsukishima are currently holed up. Interestingly, Riruka had no idea what was going on, meaning someone reached out to Yukio specifically. Of course, in the anime, the two Fullbringers are sidetracked when they witness Leelbaro's dispersed power raining down upon the Serete from afar in a really awesome shot. But yeah, Ginjo and Tsukishima are back, and Tsukishima actually helps Ichigo to circumvent the otherwise unstoppable the Almighty. I'd love for Ginjo to get something else to do, something that isn't just a very, very brief dialogue with Ichigo, but ultimately I'm not holding my breath there. Also, will the anime include Giriko? He does appear alongside the other two at Kukaku's palace, after all, but is absolutely nowhere to be seen at this point in the manga. Meanwhile, down in the Serete, we get what may very well be one of the most anticipated moments of the entire final core, Aizen vs Yhwach. With Yhwach preparing to annihilate the world, Aizen stands in his way as the last line of defense, or, well, sits in his way, at least until Yhwach obliterates Chair-sama, which may be the single saddest death of the core. But of course, this moment is iconic. Aizen welcoming Yhwach to his Soul Society is a fan-favourite, crowd-pleasing interaction, and I personally can't wait to see Aizen let loose once he's finally free from his bindings. Really, this moment ties into the final battle itself, involving Ichigo and maybe Renji. Hopefully the anime clears that up, but I can't deny it is Aizen who I'm most excited to see here. Using Kyokusuigetsu, he's able to trick Yhwach's all-seeing eyes, allowing Ichigo to land a devastating, seemingly fatal swing with his true Bankai. It's gonna be glorious. The last time we saw Aizen in the Thousand Year Blood War arc anime was in episode 40, when he witnesses Leel's power come raining down upon the Serete. As is the way with many of these upcoming moments in Core 4, what I'm really hoping for from this showdown is just to see it expanded on and fleshed out somewhat. I'd love to see more of a fight from Aizen in particular, and if I'm remembering correctly, the anime team mentioned Kubo revealing a certain name of someone or something that will be revealed in Core 4 that made them all lose their collective minds. Honestly, since first hearing that, I've thought it was going to be Aizen's Bankai. That just seems to make the most sense to me as the kind of reveal that could elicit that reaction this late into the game, something that we haven't seen before. And considering the characters involved in the story at this point, well, at least as far as I'm concerned, all signs point to an Aizen Bankai reveal, but I guess we'll have to see. One of the craziest, most consequential moments of the final core is also likely to be one of the most controversial too. And of course, I'm referring to Yhwach's defeat, and specifically Uryū using the Stil silver arrow to rob the Quincy King of his powers temporarily. Now, I've gone on record before saying that as far as Deus Ex Machina in Bleach go, I really don't mind the Stil silver arrow that much. Thematically, I love what it represents. Not just the Ishida family's revenge, which the anime has done a really solid job of building towards, by the way, but the revenge of essentially the entire Quincy race. Finally getting their chance to strike back against their tyrannical All-Father, who has been nothing but a plague on their very existence for a millennium. And the anime has already gone some way to foreshadow the arrow's existence more than the manga ever did, showing Ryuken with several pieces of the silver back in episode 28. Will this moment be changed in the anime? Considering the aforementioned foreshadowing, it definitely seems like the arrow is still going to come into play, but there's no telling how things might pan out when the time comes. Perhaps we'll learn why Yhwach didn't see the arrow coming in that crucial moment, despite being able to see all futures, all possible outcomes at once. Maybe Uryū will miss entirely, forcing the anime down a totally different path. Or perhaps it'll play out exactly the way it does in the manga. We'll have to wait and see. And then finally, there's everything that comes after the battle. Now here I've specifically written the new Gotei 13 on my list as the moment to be excited for, but I mean your mileage may vary. For you, the biggest moment of the epilogue might be meeting Kazui and Ichigo for the first time, which is absolutely significant too. Again, while we do get to spend a very brief amount of time with the Shinigami 10 years after the war is over, I would personally definitely love to see more from the immediate aftermath of the battle. Show us how the characters react to the fighting at last coming to an end, to Yhwach's defeat, to the saving of the three worlds, and all of that. Show us what happened to Varvelt and the return of the Zero Division. Wait a minute, this isn't the right video for all this wishful thinking. Instead, just getting to see the new Gotei 13 after a decade will be incredible. I do wonder if the anime might at least attempt to tie things into the Hell chapter. Maybe it'll reveal Atao and Uryū, for example, as part of the Gotei 13 now, even if they only appear briefly in the background, perhaps. But yes, the moment I want to focus on here is Rukia's ascension to the role of captain, and subsequently the reveal of the full lineup of new captains as well, including the likes of Isane, Iba, and Lisa. The captains that will shape the Gotei 13 moving forward for better or worse. That's definitely the most consequential thing to happen at the end of the manga, aside from maybe Kazui shutting down Yhwach's resurgent power, though that is so vague and abstract in the manga that it doesn't hold that much weight, to be totally honest. Seeing the new Gotei 13 a decade into the future definitely feels more like seeing the very future of Bleach itself laid out before us. Alright everyone, but that's it for today's video, a fairly short and quick one for you this time, but like I said, Kubo talking about Core 4 again, finally getting to hear a little bit more about it, kind of spurred me on to want to talk about what I'm most excited to see in Core 4 from what we specifically know will be there, from what actually appears in the manga. So, as always, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took something of value away from it as well. Do let me know down in the comments below which manga moment are you most excited to see in the final core of the 1000-Year Blood War arc anime. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts down in the comments below. And did I miss any major manga moments that you think deserve to be here? Do please let me know. Alright everyone, once again, thank you so very much for watching. Again, consider hitting subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Consider going over to my other channel, Mr. Tomo Talks Games, and checking that out as well if you haven't done already. Your support does mean the world over there. And actually, so many of you have gone over already, and that again is greatly appreciated. It's always cool seeing someone coming over and saying that they've just realized they have a games channel, which is always pretty funny. But yeah, your support is massively appreciated no matter what. And speaking of support, I want to end the video by saying a huge thank you and giving an enormous shout out to my wonderful supporters over on Patreon, without who I simply wouldn't be able to do this. Alright everyone, once again, thank you again for watching. Until next time, I'll catch you later, and I'll see you then.